It's a Saturday morning, and we were doing a clean up of the workshop, and we got a phone call that this van stopped. And when we got there, there's this van here, and it's got a Lexus in it, as per normal. And the customer said he checked it, the fuel pump isn't working. So we towed it in, put it on the hoist, and I started checking for the fuel pump issue, and I thought I'd better check if there's power going to the fuel pump. And I lifted this lid, and you can see there was a smoke leakage point on the corner of this, because this wire here was caught under it, and it goes down, and it goes crispy down there. And this one, not sure where that one was connected to, but that one's crispy. Here's the relays and fuses, yucky, and more crispy over here. I tried to run it in on engine start and drive it in, but it popped and farted and did ugly things. So it seems that we've got more than a fuel pump issue. So guess what I'm doing today? It's not tidying the workshop, it's trying to fix this man's van. Seeing the engine, the looms had a bit of a fry up, thought I'd better check inside the ECU. So the places to look at in the bottom of the capacitors. So let's have a look here. This one, the bottom of there, that one's okay. That one at the bottom. However, this one, I'll get my finger. This one here, try and get a zoom. Just at the very bottom of that, I'll get a light. So just at the bottom of that, the back leg, you can see it's got a bit of corrosion and crap on it. So that really isn't ideal. It's not caused by this fry up, but that ECU really needs a service with some new capacitors. First thing I've done is pulled off some covers, pulled out some seats so I can get in here, so I can really assess this damage. And we've got very fried wires, and try and work out why we fried, whether it was just because of the short out or how far the damage goes. Some cutting zip ties. I've also got my mechanics tool, a pen and a paper and a pad, so we can write a few bits and pieces. So this engine's a UCF20. You can see that pretty easily. We've got cast round fuel rails, fuel pressure regulators behind the throttle body. The loom is definitely 20 series loom. See that this is all falling to bits, that's normal for 20 series. And the computer, the header plug is offset in the body of the ECU. You can see it's had a whole lot of wires popped out there. So it almost, oh look, so that is funny. I'm not sure what they've done there. It's a bit weird. So the old phone for taking photos too is really handy. So I'm going to have to identify what these relays are. We've got a couple of fuses here. We've got bare exposed wires there that had tape on it. I just touched it and the tape fell off. And multiple plugs. I wonder if I can pull all this out. I could. Yes, there we go. Big bundle of tape here. Wonder what they've done with the auto loom. So we'll have a look over here. Oh, there's extra wires here. So that looks like a gearbox loom there. So that's a gearbox loom, so that's cool. So I'm going to spend a bit of time working my way through this, trying to decipher it. We'll come back to you when I've got a bit more information on what I've found. So what do we know in here? We've got these big red wires. We've got a whole heap of cut wires in here. This loom has got like this big wad of wires here, which I'm guessing is a high ace, so I can't take the engine loom out. To get this engine out, it's a huge stuff up. It's the loom, the engine loom is not separate. It's been wired permanently into the van. I've got this plug here, okay, which has got 4 wires coming off it. That's cool. Alright, here's water temp. So that's water temp for the gauge there. Normally, but it goes into this orange wire, which goes this wire. So that can't be water temp anymore, because it goes over here for some reason.
It's all connected here.
It's all burnt together.
Yeah. Comes in out of that plug then into here. Then
this one does the loop around, so that's okay. We'll get there. Okay, let me just. So that's gearbox. I'm going to get a white pen or a red pen and mark it up. Oh, yeah, the shrink wrap fell off. Yeah. When I touched it, it was sticky and it fell off. So this is gearbox. Okay, so the main relay wasn't working properly because it's been cut off. They didn't know how to make the main EFI relay work. That's plus B. And then the main pad of the ECU has got multiple joins in it and goes into this green-white wire. Mike, hey. I'm going to grab my test light. Can we just tempt fate and turn the ignition on? Yes.
Just onto the ACC.
Turn the key to the on position. On.
You ready?
Yep. If you see smoke,
tell you there's smoke and turn it off.
Yes. So I don't know where any of that goes. I'm picking, hopefully the main ignition has blown as well in the fuses. So we've got fuses there, and there's also another fuse box up underneath the on the other side, on the left hand side of the steering wheel. Here, yeah, so there's fuses up in there. So I'm hoping that's protected it. Okay, because I've got no ignition anywhere here. So that might have saved us a little bit.
Let's hope so.
Yep, okay. This is a glow plug relay, has still in here, and then there's wires, power feeds tapped off it.
You shouldn't need that.
Nah, being a petrol, we probably don't need that glow plug relay, but I do often use that power feed because that's a really good power source for ignition, for battery power, because it's fused here off the glow fuse.
That'd be quite a strong circuit.
It's an 80 amp fuse. Okay, can you turn that key off?
Let's see the expansion.
No, so that's our main battery power, that big red, because that's plugged into the glow fuse circuit. We've got a fuel pump wire here that goes down. This fuel pump came through here. Twin core here, so there's fuel pump. So fuel pump was coming off this relay, which I believe that's a tachometric relay, but it's got fuel pump output out of the ECU. We'll see if the fuel pump works, eh?
Yep.
Nah, I've got a straight battery here. Ready? Well, the fuel pump works, and our pressure and our dampener pops up, the screw pops up.
All you wanted us to do was get the fuel pump working, so I say just drive it on out.
Mate, we're good. Fuel pump goes.
Job done.
Job done.
Oh, I'll hold her up.
Yeah, I kind of think it won't go though. Can you lift the driver's seat forward and take that cover off there, and we'll have a look at the airflow meter and the throttle body setup, eh?
The top cover.
Nah, the bottom one. The top cover, we'll just leave it for the moment. And I think this is going to be the fan circuit.
Ooh, that's how that works.
Oh, yeah, so I've got down the front, I seem to have a fan switch in the bottom radiator hose. The bottom radiator hose does a loop along the front of the engine. So there's actually a fan switch in the bottom. And it comes up this twin core. We've got 3 wires going into the fan circuit here. That one there, which is out of that fuse. So that's got to be the fan power supply. Stop.
Fan works.
That's the fan power supply. That's cool. Fan power supply, and this has got to be a switch. So there's my fan relay. That's got to be ignition. Oh, I've got another wire going into the fan circuit as well.
That's good.
This black wire, another earth. No, so there's an earth and something else happening in there. That's the earth for the fan, and then the trigger switches. That's done. So in here, we've got factory throttle body, which is hard mounted in here, solid mounted, with the airflow meter straight out of it. We've got our pair of igniters and the air filter crammed in the side. That's been cut by that. It's actually cut through.
That's a good idea.
So it relies on the motor, the silicon up here, up with on the joiner to allow it to move. Okay. When I did my one, I put the throttle body in here, I cut it back into here. So it allowed me to more intake, and I actually used the factory intake. Oh yeah, that one at the front, yeah, that's pretty buggered. You might want to look at that, eh? Do you want to look at that?
Yeah.
While I'm doing this wiring? It does seem, see in here, it's got the gearbox wiring still, is in here. So I don't know, because it's all been cut at the back of here. This is where the gearbox wiring normally comes out. It's not here.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they've done. So same as, so we've got oxygen sensors there. That's okay.
You don't need them.
According to the last one, we don't. Oxygen sensor, but they actually have been. They've got. Oh wait, what's that there? No, they're going to be in here. All the gearbox wiring's going to be right there. I'll split that open and have a look, eh? There they go.
So it's all.
Here's your gearbox wiring. All hidden in there. Because it all goes to the computer still. So let's pop that out.
So you're going to get rid of all that.
Yeah, well, when I'm just, to solve a problem like this, the easiest way is to just work my way through normally and get rid of all those extra wires that are hanging around. And I'm going to have a heap of extra wires over by the computer.
Yeah.
And in the loom, and then those extra ones that do functions like exhaust gas temp and air conditioning and stuff like that. And then the diagnostic wires. So I find it's easiest just to pull them out.
Is that one of your clutch setups?
It isn't actually, it's a racing one.
Right.
And so it's similar. My ones will work, I always go through the top.
I was going to say that's not quite as tidy.
Yeah, so
Bit rough.
it's designed to be taken out and adjusted as the clutch wears, so not ideal for road vehicles.
Yeah.
Whereas my one, over the life of the clutch, it'll self-adjust. So there's our gearbox wiring. There's actually power going down a couple of those from the ECU, which is really great. It's not that I can actually get any of the loom out at the moment.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Ooh. It's still got sparks happening to it. This one's still trying to be live.
Touch something.
Oh, it was actually, that actually comes off, here, it comes off that main one from the glow plugs. And because it's such a small wire,
Yeah.
there's 80 amps, so it hasn't blown the glow plug fuse.
Come a helical.
That's why I only use the glow plugs to supply it, supply the relays. And there's another power supply off that glow plug, which is good, but you need big wires going to the relays,
Yeah.
and then fuses after it. There's the extra, don't need that.
Rubbish.
And this plug's broken too, end of the plug. Hopefully I've got a spare that I can just change all the pins out of. Right, we're getting somewhere now. Look at this. Here we go. Here's some spares. We don't know what to do with them, so we'll just cut them off, which, hey, it's okay to do that. But I put them all together in one with the extras, but if I'm doing a proper loom, I try to take them all out, which they're in there anyway. Here they are. Here's some of them. Diagnostic wires.
So it's not running anymore.
On this model, it doesn't have everything in it anyway. So if I flip this open, it's actually got the pin out inside, right? And it needs W, which is the check light. It's not in there. It needs TE2 to turn the scanner on, as far as to put the data stream, to turn the data stream on, and that's not in there. So those aren't in there. These are all extra, so they're all spare wires. So what I normally do is I pull a couple of those, pop them into those holes, and wire the W, wire the TE2, and then that would work. And you can plug a scan tool in, because so many people come along and they plug a scan tool onto it and go, we can't get any information out of the diagnostic port. Well, it's not even the right bloody port. They've got one under the dash normally, a semicircle, and that's got all the right information, and it comes out proper.
Have that there when it's not even wired to work.
Well, it's still got some manual stuff, so if you wanted to check your oxygen sensors, you can just put an oscilloscope into there, and you can still get some of the other body functions out of that one. And it's got a tacho feed, so there's some other body functions in there, but it doesn't have everything for the engine. The engine is mainly on the semicircle. Okay, so I've got this big feed here. I reckon that's far out. No, I don't know what that is. Unless this glow plug relay's actually been wired to work.
Have you never heard of the 1UZD?
The 1UZD? Haven't I? Nah.
Even I knew all about it.
Is that... Is the 1UZD one from your imagination? You did inhale it a couple of times first.
Yeah.
See if it's got a funny flavour in it. This would be much easier if we had a pinout for this compartment. I don't even know. There's not a lid sitting over your side? There actually appears to be no blown fuses.
Something really nasty on there. Looks like it. Yeah. Quite nasty.
So I've got, no, I seem to, I seem to have no blow-on fuses. But I've got... I don't know where the ignition power actually comes into the circuit.
It'd be a good start at the start.
Alright, that's cool. Don't need to know what that is. We'll work that out later. I think we're going to find some really cool stuff under here. Okay, we might actually now have two looms. Oh, kind of. So there's a high ace loom over there. We almost, look at this, we now almost have two looms. What have we got crossing over? Here we go, two wires. This is temp gauge, yellow green and black yellow, and I reckon black yellow is the tacho. So this is high ace loom.
That one's pretty crispy.
I think it's actually had crispy stuck to it.
More than pretty rooted though.
Yeah. So that's the trigger to the glow plugs. Glow plug, which are, you know, in this diesel Lexus high ace. So if I just cut these two.
Holy shit. You used to overwhelm that, put an extra piece of hose on, and then just silicone the living shit out of it.
That's awesome, eh? So temp gauge. This will be temp gauge, and I reckon this will be tacho. So if we use our test light, right, to earth on the temp gauge, see it goes to hot.
Halfway.
Okay, then I'll just go full hot then, eh? I'll just go straight to earth. I'll find an earth here. It's not long enough, I cut it too short. Oh, I got most of the way.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Can you hold the GoPro over here? Actually, no, can you just touch them
What's your head?
on there? So if you touch that, there we go. So the temp gauge drops up. So that's, and there's a little tiny glow out of the test light. So that's temp gauge. That's it. It could be ignition. Being yellow-black Toyota is often ignition. We'll see where it goes in this loom, eh? So it goes multiple ways in here. Comes over here. It goes into this loom, which plugged into the relays and fuses, which is that yellow-black, which plugged into this blue wire. No, I'm down with that being the tacho still.
You're down with that?
Yep, I'm down with that being the tacho.
What
So
isn't tacho?
So if I go across to the igniters, and I'll continuity test it. If I clip onto that wire, here, and I go over here to the igniters, one of the igniters has got 5 wires in it, and that was the plug breaking. And the 5th wire is the tacho. And they seem to have been glued on.
Yeah. You don't want them coming off.
Well, you don't want them coming off, do you? Well, I got the front one. I now can't get the back one off. Got them. Okay, so here, and 20 series, just to make life fun, I have quite a different igniter. And if you put a 10 series igniter on it, they run funny. So we've got the 2 plugs. Here's a yellow-black wire, black-yellow, sorry. Funnily enough, and I bet you that continuity's up with that wire over there. Bang on, it's the tacho. Those igniters. So it's tacho temp gauge were the two that were hardwired. What I don't have is ignition. Had a tachometric relay for the fuel pump, so it never ran properly because it had fuel pump faults. And these ones, when they get a fuel pump circuit fault, they don't run properly.
Yeah.
Right, up here.
Isn't there much water in it? Naughty Patrick. Bone dry.
But the hoses are about the same size. It just had a expansion on it.
That with that over top, and then that over top the other end, because it had that Porangi thing on, and that hose clamp literally did about quarter of a turn and went ting.
No, neat. So in fact, it didn't actually have a hose that was fully round. It had cut hoses. There was no.
No, I've got cut
Oh,
them
you've
off,
cut them.
but it had two full hoses and then a third hose to make it fit that one.
Hose clamp, okay.
Instead of just putting a nice little bit of hose.
So if you,
Just get a piece of hose.
or cut, you might have to cut this down a little bit, shorten this one a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to pull that out now because I will pull that silicone off and shit.
Yeah. It's almost, it sort of wants to sit.
Yeah, that way, but and that if
More
you did
natural like that.
would pull it back off the fan better.
Yeah. So if you trim that down a little bit, you're going to get that. There should be some hoses over in the container. Should be able to find a length of new hose over there. There'll be some new little short lengths. I never throw shit away.
No, I know.
You've noticed. Good. Yes, but it's very handy when you do jobs like this.
Yeah. And
Right.
Does that expansion bottle need to be sealed?
No, it doesn't.
So it's fine with that just flopping about.
Yeah, it needs to have atmosphere, so it can actually allow the atmosphere to push the water back into the radiator.
Okay.
So watch, see these ones here? See, this is a green red. It's one of these ones over there. Here it goes. Here's the green red disappearing. Whew, here we go.
It's like magic.
I do too many of these, I kind of know which ones to go. Here we go.
Yeah, you have a second section there.
Considering it didn't take much to pull these out. That one's different colour. That one's the fuel pump.
Yeah, pull it anyway.
No, it's over here. It's here. It's the fuel pump wire from the diagnostic plug, so you don't want to pull that one out. Those ones go to the diagnostic box. This one might not though. And this one is power wire, normally, but it can cut off. Okay, so we've got rid of those. She's gonna blow!
Pager.
Oh, right, okay. But probably should, can you turn the key off too?
You can get it.
I've cut all this out, but I don't know where the start trigger is, which probably is important. And I've got a feeling it's that one there. No, I don't. It's normally quite large and black. Here it is. No. Here, this one. It can't be that one because that's an earth.
There's a black one. An earth as well.
That's the yeah, that's earth.
Another one of these. That's another earth, I suppose. That's black one, isn't it?
That went into no, you're right, it is that one. You work bang on, there it is, that one there. So that is our start trigger right there, that black one.
That's what I was just saying.
And that has powered everything else. So if you can just go,
You want to make sure it's in neutral.
I'm going to find my pen again, here it is. And so this one, the start. Can you please come crank that for me, please? With lots of pleases, aren't I being very polite?
We'll do. Just crank it over on the key.
Yes. Yeah, give it a crank. I might push the button on the alarm, eh? Yep, that looks good to me. Okay, so let's start. And this, I reckon, that this here, see this is, oh, have we actually managed to blow the glow fuse? Oh, we have actually managed to blow the glow fuse. So if I just push that back together, so right now, I'll replace the fuse. This is probably only about a 20 amp anyway. It's about when they fry up when I'm testing stuff with them. Technical tip for the day, that's a plastic cover, and it doesn't conduct electricity. We're good there, we're good there. We've got power to there now, so that's up to there. And I think that this is an ignition and it has had a fry up, so I've got to find,
needs replacing, I think.
I've got to find why. Oh no, we've got power there. So somewhere in that line it's had a fry up.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, that was the one that you thought might have just been secondary fried.
Yeah, somewhere in there there's a fry. So that's our ignition input. So this was done just to confuse me. It was quite interesting. They taped this yellow green, which is temp gauge, and that was taped in here. And then we had a yellow green here coming out to this plug over here. But that's actually being tapped into this black red, which is like a power for coils and injectors. So that's a bit of an issue. So somehow I've got to tidy all this up. I'm going to get into this now. Now I've actually shown you a bit. I'm going to pull some extra wires. There's a diagnostic box over there. So I'll work on pulling some of those out. Cleaning up this. I'm going to pull some transmission wires out. Here's the fuel pump triggers here. And that's why they ran a tachometric relay, but you don't need to. They will pop, see here's the cut-off ones here. There's a whole lot of little ones from the ECU. So AC was going to electrical load system ELS. So A20 to A15. Which is something I would never do, but I suspect it's because they didn't have the main relay circuit working properly. So they, because it wouldn't idle properly, they made it so it idled up a little bit. And that might have done it, but what a weird way to do it. So here's some of your wiring.
Why is it like that?
Yeah, it's this, as the smoke escapes, it generates heat, and then
He's telling me that. He's being a dick.
and then it stops working. The insulation gets off and more smoke gets out. And once that insulation is all gone, the smoke can just escape.
It looked like a wire was sitting under there.
Yeah, what had happened is someone Bernie mark here.
You know, it's actually
Crispiness in lots of places.
it's actually very fortunate it didn't fucking catch fire.
You're correct.
And I don't have a fire extinguisher, and it's the only vehicle I own that doesn't have a fire extinguisher.
Oh, right.
Which a little one is, you have to be on the ball really quickly to get to it, otherwise.
It's something.
What's that? Yeah.
And that was your front.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about. It was a fucking.
Looks a bit tighter.
Yeah, it was just ugly because it. And the other thing is it really pushed up really close to the
No, it still sits against the radiator.
Yeah, no, we had it off it, but obviously not with that fitting.
But I changed it so it's a slightly different angle, so it sits over here a bit better.
Yeah. Because when the engine flexes, I don't want. I need some sort of.
It's got flex on the other side of the hose anyway.
Oh, yeah.
The hose on the other side is long, so that's got your flex in it. You're correct.
When the engine's flexing, it's rubbing up against the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people forget when motors move, that things have got the hoses have got to move and give. This one, see, you've got your throttle body down the side and it's solid mounted. So you're relying on the little bit of silicon that's on the plenum to allow for movement.
You look at your air filter on the thing there. On the front side of the air filter.
You mean where it's cutting in?
Yeah. And it's all wide wrong, so did it idle up nicely when it was cold?
Didn't idle. I wasn't even going to raise the attention until we came to do a service, and then I was going to tell you the things that I've noticed.
Yeah, didn't idle when it was cold.
Doesn't idle when it's hot.
I don't know when it's hot.
No, what it was doing, you know when the idle, normally it was sitting about 750, 800 RPM. When I went to Auckland, it was idling on the way there. It was idling at like 1150, 1200, and the year it was a hot day and all the rest of it. Take that in consideration. Then it dropped back, and then it started doing this business of. And I'm thinking, that's fucked.
Probably doesn't have a start input going to the ECU either.
Is this sitting down here nice and tight? Because I've got an amazing amount of heat that comes up here and cooks my rump.
It was missing quite a lot of bolts. There's only 3 bolts holding that.
That'll be it.
Which holds all your seatbelt and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That will
find
suck.
I'm going through a bit like the video I did for the UCF20 wiring. And I'm just whipping out the extra wires that we don't need. So I've just done the C plug. No, it's a D plug. Just done the D plug. And left the fuel pump triggers in there. I'm going to go through this plug here. I think it's that's the B plug. And pull some transmission wires. So we look here, we look over the back here, fairly certain that this is a trans wire. So out it comes. Trans wire. I'm actually going to refer to my diagrams now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all these ones in this corner, all these extra ones that have been cut off, I'll take them out appropriately as well. So if you want to know more about that, you can watch my wiring the UCF20 video that I've got. That is a 40-minute video on how to wire this. And I've also got, if you want good instructions, I do have them for sale that make the video make even more sense. There's a lot of info in the video, but the best tricks are kept for my paying customers. So I'm going to get rid of the rest of these, and we'll come back to you once I've made a bit more progress. I'm kind of got a plan going through my head, but we'll see how that works out as I see what I find going through here. So I chucked my fingers in and I found the traction control plug. There it is, and here it is here. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, it wants to go. Here it goes. Got it. More rubbish. Whoop whoop. And now I'm going to modify this box up. Now I'd normally have this loom out to do this mod, so I'm not sure I'm going to succeed here. We don't have the budget this time to pull the loom out. I think I can do it reasonably quickly in place. But we'll see how I get on. So there's actually a good chance, because I've got this stuff all coming to the ECU, the easiest way might be for me to tap in the A plug. And that one's like way longer for some reason now, because it used to wrap around. Tap the A plug in, bring it out here, and then cut these off at their joins, back up in here, and link all those together, and take that on its own little sub loom off to my relays and fuses, and bring everything in there. Is kind of what I'm thinking at the moment.
Make it tighter.
Yeah, well, that becomes its own separate loom, and even maybe put the temp gauge in there as well.
Makes it a bit easier to work in the future too.
Well, that's sort of my goal, and it gets rid of all, some of this is that's factory joints. That isn't, but there's other joins and stuff in here, and I've clipped into it, and there's join on join on join. So it must be easier just to rejoin there. Bring this over here, run my few connections around that I need to, but this goes only to the computer.
Yeah.
And probably a diagnostic plug over here, and then the rest goes off to the fuses and relays, and then that clips into the body. One of the things I noticed on this van was the 34 pin plug in the ECU was broken, and actually the pins are moving around in there. It's really bad. So I found another one, second hand one, and we're going to swap each of the pins. So we've got to make sure we put them in the right place on the new on the replacement plug. So we just do them one at a time and swap each of them over. It's not that much of a fun job, really. And because the plug's all damaged, they're a bit sticky as well. Yeah, there was nothing wrong with that plug. So here's where I'm at to on the van. As I continue, I've gone through and I've finished off the wiring in these 3 plugs. So I've added my fuel pump wires, both of them, and my diagnostic wires. So over here we now have 5 wires going out for the diagnostic plug, and that one will get my connector, and they go to the diagnostic box on the engine, which has been modified to work now. I've extended my water temp, and I've extended the wiring for the power supplies for the coils and the injectors, and I've split them off the way they are factory. And the one for the airflow meter and the idle stepper. So what I'm doing now is I've just put the brand new connector. I've got the 28 pin plugs brand new with terminals, and I'm going to go through and add all the correct wires into that plug. There's only half a dozen. Run them up, and they're going to go into this loom over here, and then I'll terminate that loom, tape this up, and that will make the engine loom sort of done. So I'm quite looking forward to getting that sorted. So once I've got that done, I'll give you an update. Other little bits and pieces I've done is I did change one injector plug because it was broken. And I'm going to see if I've got some igniter plugs over there as well. Gearbox loom I'm not going to modify. I'm going to leave that as it was. So that's your gearbox. The gearbox plug, I'm going to leave that. So I'll talk to you once I've got this 28 pin plug, or the A plug, all finished. The next stage of the job is done. I've terminated up the main power wires going into the ECU into the loom. I've still got that diagnostic plug, and I've terminated the extra little wires. So there's 6 in that one and 6 in that one. So there's 12 wires in total. And I've actually just put in a temporary fuse box. So this is temporary to make it run. Hooked it into the battery. Fuel pump wiring into the battery. Power up the fuel pump. There's the fuel pump going. Grab the start wire. Oh, it almost tries to idle. Now this van's had idle problems. So if we go over to the throttle body, you'll see down here the screw here, which is the throttle stop, and it's been wound all the way in. Sorry, this one. On there. So it's been wound all the way down to try and make it idle because it wasn't wired properly. So when we finish, we will be winding that out. I've also found some igniter plugs, some brand new ones. These ones are just, the clips are broken. So I will be changing those as well, just flicking the pins over. But But this will allow me to get the van out of the space because we need it for something else, and have a bit of a tidy up before I move on to building the relay box and fuse box. I'll do the throttle. Bit of a sweep, tidying up in my area. As you can see here, I've written a very detailed list of everything I've done. I normally recommend writing it, but this one's all in my head. I just do too many and I got all the colours. It's only a few wires, so it's not too bad. And here is the bucket of rubbish we've taken out of it. The old relays and fuses, throwing them away, and all the old wiring coming out of it. Let's have a bit of a look underneath, and we'll show you a little bit around the van. This is under the van, so it's not too big in the exhaust, which I like. It has got some brand new tyres on the back because the old tyres possibly up in there. Don't know how that happened. The fuel pump does appear to be in the tank, which is good, though we're going to put a little bit of covering just here to stop it rubbing on the edge of the tank, which is a possible issue, and zip tie that up or secure that up in there so it can't rub. Drive shaft hoop, which has actually been welded in. I normally bolt them in. Fuel filter hasn't been forgotten, so that's good. It's got a set of Sora exhaust manifolds, which I supplied to the man after he removed some logs. And this one's had a front sump put in it, which I don't recommend. I always use a rear sump. And then they've cut the factory cross member to pieces and done a big weld up. I'm not a fan of that at all. I prefer to use a rear sump, which sits the sump back here. No modifications to the cross member, and much easier to get it legal and certified. It's got one of my oil filter blocks on it. There we go. Fits in quite nicely. It's facing straight forward. And it looks like a standard radiator with modified outlets possibly, and a fan that's just been cable tied on, not had proper mounts fitted. I also prefer to run power steer coolers because they kill power steering. Oxygen sensors are in the factory position. Looks good. And that is the small of the gearboxes, so that's a G55. Sump plug at the bottom indicates a small box. Big box is the sump plug is on the side pointing towards the chassis rail and not pointing towards the ground. Linkages have been all installed. We're about to do another HiAce, so we'll be doing videos of that job. It's got an internal release bearing running through. It is quite close to the linkages up in here. So apart from the wiring, it isn't too bad a job. Wiring on this van's coming along quite nicely. I'm going through in a bit of a tidy up, so a bit of tape, extra tape going on a few spots. I sat down the other night and I built a relay box and a fuse box. So the goal is it's going to fit in front of the battery. The ECU is going to sit beside the battery, and ideally I would have loved to shorten up the wiring loom completely and repin it, but there's just not the budget to do that. And I'm reconnecting the wires around this area. I will be using the same fuse to power it all up, and I'll put a plug on that. Put a couple of plugs in so this whole relay box and fuse box can be removed, and the engine loom is going to be separate as well. So I'm going to get that done. Trim a few more wires, get rid of some length here. So that was for the that's for the reverse lights. So give that a trim up. And hopefully make some pretty good progress here today. Man, is it busy in here. So this is the HiAce. So I'm coming to the end of it. I've got fuse box here. I've got relays which are going to be mounted down at the bottom of the battery box there. Battery's going to be battery clipped on here, and I'm just about to put the battery in. I thought I'd show you before I did that. And I might shorten up this wire yet. It's a bit longer than I really wanted at the back. So I'm actually going to just fire it up now and check my wiring before we mount everything up. But I'm much happier with the way it's looking, and we shouldn't have anything that's going to catch fire or short out. Secured the grommet, the factory grommet, into place. And the main wiring loom's looking pretty good along the back of the battery box, and comes up quite neat into the ECU. We shouldn't catch on anything up in there, so there's plenty of room. So let's put a battery in, see if I've actually got it all right and it's going to run. Right, let's see if it's going to go. Now you can check if the fuel pump's going by whether the screw and the dampener comes up. So I've just bridged that fuel pump for the moment. So we're just resetting the idle by turning the key on and off, and you can see that light stays on for a little bit afterwards. We've now got an idle. Caco works, that's good. So I'm pretty sure that this one's going to idle too fast because the screw down here has been adjusted incorrectly. Most of it should be above, and that's because it was wired wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. I also need to change those plugs on the igniter and just work out why my fuel pump isn't being triggered by the computer. The way I've made this, I was just able to slip the relays out, the fuses out to work on it, and I found a bad connection at the ECU for the fuel pump, so I've sorted that, and it sits and runs quite nicely again on its own power. Idle speed's trying to come down. And then we'll get in and we'll mount up those relays and fuses all neatly and tidily. Maybe shorten up the battery cable, we'll see how we get on. It's looking much neater in there. And we'll also see if we can connect to the scan tool with both this one and with my own one that I plug in. So with the van up and running, I've checked this diagnostic port works. So I of course modified that one, and it does. And I then checked the other one works. I'll just turn this off. You can just see when it's running. And I've bridged in a test light because this van doesn't have a check light at present on the dash. So you can hear the fan going all the time. I've got no history on whether that fan used to go, and the customer did say that he was out on the road possibly wearing out his back tyres, and it did blow out a bit of water. So I'll be checking that fan switch tomorrow. The fan is connected to the relay correctly, and that sort of things is working just fine. With the second diagnostic plug, it is this one. It's that one there, and I just use my adapter. And you need to have a check light to flash for the scan tool to communicate. And it has brought up some fault codes. Now this vehicle was brought in because it caught fire, so I've got no history of what codes were in it prior. We've got one for the sub throttle position sensor, which when I was doing my wiring, I normally do a little modification at the ECU, and I didn't do that because I wasn't sure what was in there. So I'll just pop back in and do that mod. It also brought up code 56. Code 56 is the cooling fan pressure switch, and that's not really a big issue. We also have the sub-oxygen sensor codes, so left and right sub-oxygen sensor codes. They aren't really an issue, so I'm not going to worry about them, but we have a main code 28, main oxygen sensor code. So I'd probably better look at that. I had a look at the live data, and so many people think that just because you've got a code or you don't have a code that there's nothing wrong, but often a lot of things are shown in the live data. So I am going to look in that live data. No, I've looked in the live data, sorry, and neither of the oxygen sensors are functioning. So I will be going in tomorrow and having a bit of a look at that. Possibly putting some new oxygen sensors in it. Now this is a 20 series engine. It is critical to have good operating oxygen sensors in these if they are to run properly. If you don't have them, they will run rich and never perform as well as they should. Come out of there. Got it. So with the oxygen sensors, critical they're the right ones for the 20 series. They're different to the early ones. They change between the 10s. The first of the 10s had a single wire. The later ones in the 10 series had a 4-wire, but different to the 20 series. Or the Gen 2s, I should say. So I will be going and having a look at what oxygen sensors are doing. And I expect I'll be putting some new ones in. Getting good second-hand ones is getting a bit tricky because I see quite a few that are failing now, and ideally you would put new ones in. I'm just flicking in some new igniter plugs. There we go. So this is the quick way to do it. So now they have clips on them. And double check it goes again. So we'll do a bit of an update once we find out what's up with those oxygen sensors and with that cooling fan, and we might be able to go for a drive. So we're working through the faults on the van, and one of the faults was a problem with the oxygen sensor. And if you look here, we've got the oxygen sensor out, and you'll see there's a, just here, that's a piece of weld. That might explain why this oxygen sensor is not functioning like it should. So we better put something else in it. That's pretty cool to find something like that. It's just had exhaust put on it.
So your headers, eh?
That's a set of standard Sora headers actually, that I supplied.
So he whacked the flange on but didn't take the oxygen sensor out.
Well, yeah, maybe. with our new oxygen sensors fitted. I've no longer got the right hand oxygen sensor code, so I'm really happy about that one. I've got 27 and 29, which are the sub oxygen sensors. I've still got the sub throttle position, so I better fix that. And the cooling fan pressure switch, but I'm not too worried about those. I'll fix the throttle position, sub throttle position sensor fault in a moment. And I'm just looking at the oxygen sensor status, and it is going rich, lean, rich, lean, rich, lean nicely. So they're now cycling like they should be. The idle speeds come right down. Sounds like about 625. Oh no, this one's 525 RPM. So the idle speeds drop right down as it's learned. I saw that sub throttle position sensor fault, and that will be the wiring done. We've also fitted a fan switch at the front. I'm just letting that warm up. It's a bit warmer than I'd like. This one is a 95 to 90, so I'll probably drop down to about an 80, 85, but I'll do some measuring first of where the fan comes in. While I'm here, you'll see I've got it plugged into the engine diagnostic plug. And if you were watching earlier in the video, you'll notice that I did modify that. It doesn't normally connect. But if we look at our screen here, which it's going to struggle to see, but we can see here, here's the coolant. We'll just try and get it. I'll just move my line down. And you can see the coolant temperature is actually a voltage, 4.55 volts. So the information from that plug isn't quite right. So you have to be aware of things like that. The airflow ratio status is quite good to measure in this one. 1.6, 1.7. So that shows that the oxygen sensors are actually functioning. So, if we look at the bottom, park neutral switch is off. So that should be off. The idle signal, if the TPS is set correct, should be on, and it should be at 0 degrees on the TPS. And the starter signal is off. NOx sensor status is no. I had one the other day. NOx sensor status was yes, because the motor had a big end bearing knock. So looking at that data is so much more important than just looking at codes. Though codes are of course helpful, I want a real engine temperature with my fan so I can monitor it and set up the correct switch. I normally put the temperature switch in the top, so I'm aiming for around 95 to 100 degrees at the on, with a 5 degrees difference to the off. This one's been put in the bottom down there, so there's a little bit more involved for me just getting the right sensor. Let's swap over to the other diagnostic plug and get a proper engine temperature. Here I am swapped into the other diagnostic plug. So this is the one that's normally under the dash, and I've wired it in on my adapter. When it plugs in, you'll hear the engine notes drop because it puts it in base timing as well. And we have a test light, so the test light is connected to ignition or battery and into the W terminal, and that will flash the check codes, and the scan tool just counts that. So it's pretty primitive. So on this one, we'll get some better information. So this one actually has the coolant temperature as a degrees. So right now it's sitting at 92 degrees. The target left and right voltages for the airflow meters are about right. So when they flatline, I think they sit like 2.5 for the oxygen sensor. So if your oxygen sensors are sitting 2.5, 2.54, they're dead. They need to be replaced. And on this one it says it's got rich lean and they're functioning back and forth. Where yesterday, we'll have a look, it's going to be a little bit slow. Oh, you can't really see it. Oh, there it is, rich, lean. The sampling of this scan tool is quite slow, rich, lean. And this one has the park neutral switch as RD2L. Idle signal on, and again that starter signal off. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy the oxygen sensors are functioning. So our fan's just flicked on. Well, I can hear it. And that came on at 102 degrees. So that's not too bad. I might drop it another 5 degrees and I'll be happy. Right, it's come up. Oh, it's coming down. It's actually come up to 105. It clicked on at 102, but the engine sensor then came up to 105. And the reason the difference is our coolant temperature sensor is down through here. So the EFI sensor is the 2-pin, and the single pin is the one that goes to the dash. And that one to the dash will suit most Toyota cars, most conversions. So your surfs, that's switched off. Switched off at 99. So I think 5 degrees down on the switch will be just fine. And as far as the temp gauge goes, it stays about halfway, even though it's getting up to 105. So I'm not too worried about that. So a quick change around by the ECU. And we've only got 3 codes. They're both the sub-oxygen sensors and the cooling fan pressure switch. Now the cooling fan pressure switch isn't a problem on a Gen 2, it is on a Gen 1. And that fan's coming in nicely. Oh, it's starting to settle. That came in at 99. Nice, had a bit of air in there. I'm happy enough with that. We'll call it good. My man's going to make a couple of brackets to mount up these. We'll put it back together and go for a test drive. Have you been mounting the computer, Tesla? Good dog. There's the relays mounted up at the bottom there. It's bolted on nice and firm. And the fuse box mounted up here. Ready for a battery to go in. You'll see I've put clips. So I put Anderson plug here for the main power cable. She's looking good. Batteries all back in. Fuses mounted nicely. Nice bracket. ECU mounted in the side of the battery box. And the battery even has a bracket on it that holds it on. The relays are mounted down there. Seat cover back on, and the motor's looking pretty good in the hole. Now we're ready to go for a test drive. Oh, Tesla, you coming for a test drive too? We're bleeding this high ace up, bleeding the cooling system up. We're bleeding up the cooling system in the high ace, and we're going to check my wiring, just double check everything's right. So I'm into the plus B terminal of the diagnostic box, and we're going to turn it off. This is after the engine has been running. We'll turn the key off, and we'll expect this light to stay on for 3 or 4 seconds. There we go, and it's resetting the stepper motor, so that is working like it should. Now I did a full video on that issue, So if your 1UZ doesn't do that, then it's not wired correctly. Test drive time now. Breaking in the new tyres. Chasing down the Range Rover.
I was going to say, you know,
We're chasing down a Range Rover in a high 8 van.
just do it.
Sounds good. Got a nice note to this one. So g'day guys, we've been for our test drive and it goes really nicely, smooth, plenty of power because it's doing about 3000 RPM at 100k, so you've got power right on tap at 100. It'd be nice to drop it down a little bit, but that's about what you get often on a HiAce. You can drop down to about 1000 RPM and pull away just fine in most gears, and it bounces off the rev limiter just lovely in first, second and third, no worries at all. It also now starts properly when it's cold, so the customer's going to be really happy. He's taken a few days off to go around the South Island on his Harley, and he'll come back to a van that most things are sorted on. I'm sure he'll come up with other things he'd like us to do, but we've put all the covers back on it, wrapped it all up, the wiring's like it should, and it looks really neat and tidy. I'm really happy with the way it came up. Took me a while, but we got there. And a nice cold start idle is always good as well. And once it's warm, it has a nice flare when it starts up. It goes over the idle, then comes back down. I'm really happy. If you're into 1UZs and got this far and enjoyed the video, you might think about hitting the subscribe button and hit the like button. Share it with your mates. And I'll do lots of other videos of similar nature and other 1UZ information. Hey, we'll talk to you again.